This week that I was off, I was thinking a lot about how much, what are the images, thoughts, and concepts that inhabit our minds and that have an influence on us, like either we want it or not, because we are usually so busy that we don't have that perception, just that time to stop and observe what is passing around and what are we interacting with. And it made me think of how this background thoughts actually influence in our decision making, clarity, power, and just our ability to take very clear and informed decisions. So I've been having a practice myself of trying to detox like the body to start helping the mind, and how different things that I put in, either food or things that I watch or things that I pay attention to, how can I have constantly a movement of things that are coming in and out, and how to just let go of a lot of spam that we have in our minds, and especially in this like age of so much information everywhere and us being so distracted by so many things all the time. So since it was a new moon yesterday, I just wanted to propose a little exercise. First, share this so maybe when you have some free time, you can be more mindful of everything that comes in, and develop practices for like detoxing. And also, just propose a quick exercise of 2 things that you would like to remove from, like 2 things that you would like to let go, and 1 thing that you would like to welcome in this cycle. So I'll start passing to Katie.
I knew you were going to pick me. Wow, that's heavy stuff. The trouble with these questions is we don't get a chance to think about them as much as you do before we have to answer. But I just got finished building a bookcase, and it was great. I turned on some music and just kind of zoned into the process. And that was a wonderful, how shall I say, return to the person I want to be in that life you say where we're just full of all of this crazy spam. And I think part of the this lifestyle with the pandemic, and I hate even to bring that up because we talk about it so much, maybe that's one of the things actually, to just kind of stop worrying about things that we can't control, perhaps, or the way we reminisce over the day on trifle conflicts. For example, I'm in France, so there's a lot of those on a regular basis, like arguments at the grocery store, at the post office, or wherever it might be. So trifling kind of things that we end up fixating on and wasting a lot of mental energy on, I would like to let go of those more. And then, getting back to inviting more time for music. Actually, I'm a huge music person, so playing music, I want to be playing music again. I think I'm getting ready to write another book here. So feeling definite some detox as well after the summer and getting back to the things that matter, some peacefulness. I don't know if that answers the question, but it's what I got right now. So I will pass to Chewy.
Thank you, Katie. Sorry, Libby, what is the question again? I stepped in a little bit late.
Yeah, 2 things that you want to let go and 1 thing that you want to welcome in, thinking of all of the spam that we have in our minds and our lives, and being mindful of the things we put And so, yeah, just thinking of two you want to let go and one that you want to welcome in.
I was just having that conversation last night with a couple of doctors. I've been teaching them like the basics for like Web3, and they were just talking about this topic with me, that people tend to associate one's like inner reality with our like real life reality, and this isn't really like accurate most of the time, because we have the power to build our own like reality inside of us. So I, for example, have like some like family members that I have like difficult relationships with, but they were just telling me that it's like it like if you feel that you can't really like solve it around you or in real life, it doesn't really have to be the same thing like for you perceptively. Like you can like accept this, and it's actually like easier to let it go. So I feel that not only for me, but like for a lot of people, they can change like this like reality when it's about like issues with people around them. And actually, like I would like about what I would welcome in, it's like this way of thinking about the capacity that we all have to like establish different like realities in our own lives, and how if you see it in a certain way, like they people can't make you uh, change it. So I yeah, it's a recent conversation. So thanks for bringing it up, Livy. I'll pass it to Mitch.
Thanks, Joey. Yeah, two things I want to let go of. I think it's like big thing is like fixation on work. It's like there's always something you can be doing, and it's really easy to lose track of time, and budgeting your time to actually go and like get outside and enjoy your life, you know, because the work never stops. So it's like you kind of letting go of it and being able to draw that line in the sand. Definitely is something I want to let go of. And another thing, I just read the question now, so I'm like a little bit behind here. I haven't had the chance to think about it. But I would say something that I want to welcome in my life is at the same time putting more of my personal and professional time aside to learn more things, I think. You know, like whole new things. And so I think there's a hesitation because I feel like I have to take away, you know, it's a zero-sum game. You only get so many hours in the day. So taking time away to learn stuff means that you have to give up things on the other end. I can't think of a second thing, but those would be two definite things that I would let go of and add in. And I will give it to Matteo.
Hey guys, yeah, I remember the months ago where you were asking who we would be eating on our team. That was simpler times. These questions are way tough, baby. But I will reply. In my case, I think that one of the things that I want to let go is basing my thoughts or decision making, or at least my feelings on conformism. I think that feeling on that on conformism plays a role way too important in my life sometimes, and that shouldn't be like that. So if I want to have a decision, make a decision, or I want to make a thought of something, I don't want to do that through the discomfort of something, and that's something that I have noticed a while ago, that usually takes too much importance in the way I am living. The second thing I would say is more physical. Half of my closet, I want to get rid of it. I think that I have way too much crap and I don't like it. And welcoming, I would say that more art again. I think I haven't expressed myself a lot through art for months now, and I don't like it also. I haven't watched a movie in a long time. I haven't painted. I haven't done anything artistic in a while, and I miss it. So I think that's going to be worth it if I can welcome it again this month. I'll pass it to Juanca.
Thanks, Mateo. Two things I would let go: judging and being insecure. I think, yeah, like sometimes we are insecure about things when happen to us, but like I feel that when we feel strong, the same things can happen to you, but you handle them better. So yeah, like not being insecure to things when they happen, but facing them and not judging others because of their actions. And to let in, I would like to not take things too seriously. I think that coming from the Caribbean, that's something that we see in the culture, like not taking things too seriously. But like in the world, we take things too seriously. So yeah, I want to like embrace that culture of like doing things like-minded. And I will pass it to Dan Knobs.
Hola, hola. Wow, interesting question. I yeah, I don't know. I'm mostly embracing things right now, kind of like, but it's a interesting period of potential changes. So I'm very much like preparing to potentially let go of some things and making some changes in my life. And right now I'm embracing like I very much enjoy being in Europe. I might stay down here. You can probably see behind me. I don't know. I'm in Vienna right now. It's fun. I'm happy. uh, yeah, I think I'm in love or a little bit. I might have to let it go or I might have to embrace it, but I'm flowing with it and that's nice. And I don't know who's left. So I'll pass it to Libby.
Luisius, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I could do that. Something to let go of just in my thoughts. I'm trying to process the end of a 3-year relationship. So that's like, yeah, there's a lot of letting go and turning over in that within itself. As far as things to call in, I've gone just a rabbit hole deeper in like race theory and just like how I'm viewing the world. And I've called in more mentors, like called in one specifically, but I got 3 in the process. So that's kind of like what I've been focusing my attention on lately. Yeah, and then I had heard something about not wanting to. I heard someone say something about not wanting to worry so much or care so much or whatever when people do things. And I just wanted to say what's been helping me a lot when people do stuff and for me to not like be angry at them. It's just like really putting my attention on the systems and like the ideals and beliefs and social norms that make people the way they are. Like, I just have a belief that so many people are actually just conditioned by their environment. Like, I can't honestly be mad at someone's ignorance if they haven't been exposed to like what would teach them in a moment what they need to know. So like I feel like that's been helping me a lot, just knowing that everybody learns at their own pace and some people just don't get the exposure they need. It's the only thing that's kind of helped me recently. Yeah.
Thank you. I can pass it for you. I'll pass to Nate.
Thank you. Yeah, and I like what Alois had to say there. That's really awesome. Two things that I want to let go. Man, you always bring the deep questions, Livy. I guess, yeah, I would like to let go of my anxiety. That's for sure. I think, letting go. I worry so much about all these things I can't control, and so I'd like to prevent that from happening. And then I guess another one is, and same with letting something in. I guess it's the same. So two sides of the coin is not being so hard on myself, and then just accepting, me for who I am in terms of like my mental process, the way I think and the way I do things, and not having a problem with that. And so just kind of, accepting the mind that I have, or the way I approach issues, that I am really hard on myself for the most part. I'd like to be more accepting of that. So I don't know. Yeah. I'll pass it back to you, Livy.
Zapti is the last one.
Yeah, thanks, Livy. Yeah, for me, two things I would want to let it go. One thing is kind of like me. It's like but it's not only with work. It's like I have my whole day. I have to do this. Now I work. Now I work out. Now I have to, I don't know, go to visit my parents because, it's like I have to instead of I want to. So I think that's something, I think that's answer like both questions. It's something like I want to let it go, more like I have to, for more I want to. And yeah, I think that's where I would change. And I'm working on it. Yeah, back to you, Livy.
Cool. Thank you so much, everybody. And if you develop these thoughts into something else and how this is connected to governance, feel free to ping me and we can have conversations about that, because I'm thinking a lot about it lately. Okay, so we have a full agenda. I think we reached the biggest point of complexity in our governance experiment so far, in the TC, having like really the Poligovernance heating now, and we have a few tools and a few processes, and we have a lot of things to be decided, and how are we going to go about them. So I would love if we could look into each one of the proposals and think of what would be the best process used to decide each one of these proposals. And maybe this will help us moving forward to other decisions we have to make on just this thought process of like, what are the questions we need to ask when we're looking at a proposal. And then just like the tools that we've been using now are token log that are going to be used for the params in a very similar way like we did with praise and with the mission, vision, values. And then we have Snapshot, that is a new tool that we've been experimenting, and it will probably be very useful for these following proposals that are down there. And then Snapshot has voting types. So I think we should be educated in what each one of these voting types represents. And I would love for us to build the autonomy of each person that is submitting a proposal would choose what type of voting process to use based on their own discernment. But maybe we can develop, and as we were talking with Zaptimus and Ivy Juanca in a call we had on yesterday, is that we could write about them more deeply and then have suggested uses. So someone that doesn't want to have all that thought process could easily identify which one is best for what. But if someone wants to challenge this thought and find the best solution for themselves, they could also do that. And then advice process, I think there's a question now of what types of decisions can be taken only by advice process. Like we've been using it a lot for something that leads to another decision, like just a feedback round that we incorporate things and we see from there how to move forward. But I think there are some decisions that could be taken fully by advice process. So it would be cool to also debate a little bit of those. Any questions, thoughts so far before we jump into the proposals? Cool. So I heard an unmute.
Yeah, I was thinking on decisions we take on advice process, and I think it should be like the same decisions, like like we give working groups autonomy, and I feel it should be decisions like they normally would do by themselves, but if they want some advice process, but it's always something that not affect others. For me, like when it affects others, it should be at least voted somehow, or some signaling. Yeah, just wanted to share that.
But how do we define affect others?
Yeah. I mean, decisions inside the working group, how do we, for example, in comms, how do we manage Twitter? It affects others, of course, like it affects like our branding. But it's more internal, like we give them the autonomy to manage Twitter, we trust them to manage Twitter, so I think, I mean, they can ask advice, and instead David was asking some advice on the Twitter, but it's not like it's needed. It's good to have, but not needed. Like David could be working on his own, and yeah, I feel like we should trust in when, for example, when every working group have their area of expertise, and we should trust them. But it's always welcome to do advice process, and these decisions that are inside their field of expertise, I feel should be the ones that that they could decide without a vote. But yeah, that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with it. Anyone else has other thoughts?
Yeah. This is something I talked about with V about, and we're looking to implement the seshbot. I do think that part of the advice process is that you don't know exactly when you're making decisions who it's going to affect and impact. Sometimes you make a decision and it impacts people you never anticipated impacting. And so I think there should be two different methods for advice process. Like a more formal advice process where you go through the experts and making sure that something is implemented correctly. And the other one is just kind of a way to just say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing, and kind of get this like quick on the fly signaling, because a lot of decisions people want to make, they hesitate on implementing them because they're not sure who it's going to impact. And rather than dedicating an entire forum for such a small decision, it would be nice to have like, hey, I plan on doing this. Are there anybody who objects to this or has any concerns about this action being taken? And having a kind of a quick way to like, engage with that subject matter, whether it's just, a simple small task within a working group. And it kind of gives a public platform, vehicle for people to say, hey, what about this? You're missing this idea, or you're missing this. This is going to hurt these people, or whatever it may be. So I think implementing two different methods for like a formal advice process, and also just kind of like hey, this is a quick signal that we don't have to engage with too harshly, but it's accessible. So those are just my thoughts about it, because I do think there are a lot of small decisions that are always being made that we're super hesitant on executing on because we don't know who it's going to impact.
Cool. I saw you unmuted too, Mitch.
I had more thoughts, but I also didn't want to delay the meeting since we're already at the halfway.
Okay. Do you want to share it quick and then we move forward?
Sure. My other thought was just flipping the question a bit and saying, if it's an A/B thing, either we use advice process or we don't. What types of decisions do we not need advice process? Sometimes I feel like if you are the expert in the field, or maybe you're the most knowledgeable person, that sometimes you just have the agency to make a change, depending on the scope. Like if you're writing documentation and you're the most sure person about it, then you probably have the agency to write that without going through a thorough advice process.
Yeah, I think this is something good to look into, when not to use advice process, and that would clarify a lot the other points above too. Cool. Yeah, so let's think more about that moving forward. But then, yeah, I also wanted to just look into the proposals, not exactly what is the content of the proposal. I think we all here have somehow familiarity with it, but just understanding how we would make this decision. So for the reward system, I thought we should vote only if we are implementing this proposal or not, and then how this is going to be implemented doesn't need to be like, there is a level of a step-by-step there, but I think just there should be like yes or no, this is what we're doing or not, similar to this is a proposal that could very much go to the DAO, for example, and ask for funds, and those funds would be to implement the process suggested. But since we're not doing it to the DAO and we don't need the funds now coming from the TC, I think we should just propose this probably on Snapshot, just as a yes or no type of thing. But that being said, I don't even know if we really need to vote, because I feel like we don't have that many options now other than implementing this. I think it would be beneficial for everyone. So yeah, this is one case that I feel like advice process would be enough, for example. Does anybody think something different than that?
Oh, yeah. I think, I was reading it and I'm not sure, because I have some, I didn't post it on the forum because I'm not sure what I'm, and I think like what you just say is ideal. Like we just go with it and see what's good, what's wrong, and then what's good we keep, what's wrong we change, and it should be all cool. But one thing I was thinking, and I'm not sure, like it's more decentralized. For example, like having a lot of quantifiers, and I think it should be like I do not remember who was it typed, but anyone who wants can be a quantifier, or is it, or you have to have some kind of expertise or some time into the DAO, and yeah, the more complicated you make it, it's the more centralized. Like how it was in the past, it was very centralized. Only stewards could go to the quantifiers, which I think is not cool. I think, yeah, and yeah, I see like there is a and if it's totally open, it's also easier to gamify. So I think it will be interesting, and I think it's good, like the approach to just go and and I would be a bit careful when we start with the reward system. I wouldn't put like a lot of money, like just in the beginning. I would escalate. Like the idea is to test the system, not also reward people. I don't know, but yeah, those are my concerns.
Should we move forward to the second one? Any more thoughts for the reward system? Okay, so the governance give back, I think it should be separated in 2 steps, like we've been chatting about. So the first step is just a yes or no. Should we move forward with this, considering the options of implementation that we have, or we shouldn't even move forward at all? I think the challenge with that is that people's opinions could change depending on how they think the implementation will happen. But then to solve that, we could have 2 steps voting. That the first step is just a yes or no on Snapshot. And then if it passes yes, then we develop the second step better of how we would of which type of implementation we would use. And then that could be ranked choice voting. So people can choose their like top preferences.
Well, in this I have like a different approach, and I also made a forum post about it, and I think that this can be done in just one vote, because the technical solution was primarily like a debate in the common swarm, and like they in the last call found like a solution that was that had like more or less consent within the group. So I think that the common swarm can like take the implementation of the technical solution, and the vote should be only if like the community wants or like approves the 75% governance give back.
So you mean we only have one option that is a good option? So we don't need to have a second step with multiple options?
Yes. That was the thing that was discussed yesterday in the common swarm call, and I think that helped to like ease this vote.
Cool. That sounds great.
Yeah, like it in the first text of the proposal, there was like the third unknown technical solution, and then like Sam presented it yesterday, and yeah, it sounded like really good for all of the common swarm. So yeah, that side of the vote was a little bit more cleared out, and they said that this was like the best choice for the midterm, and yeah, that the vote could be like more simple, just yes or no on the governance give back. Also, because if this is going to happen before the commons upgrade, we will need to have like time to work on this implementation after the vote.
Cool. That sounds perfect. Much easier. Anyone has other comments or questions to this? Okay, so here comes the very complicated one. Should we do the initial buy into the bonding curve? And then for this proposal alone, we have many options of how to go about it. And another one is also buying for the reward system DAO. Mitch, do you want to elucidate us a little bit here on what are the thoughts for, did you guys think about it at all on the process of how to decide this, or it's been more in a phase of like brainstorming on the possibilities?
Yeah, sure. So we had the meeting yesterday, and just seeing like what both parties are receptive to and what the options are. And so I made those posts with just lots of ideas basically, and you know, really it depends on what people in the community are warming up to, and just really lots of feedback and debate. That's what I'm really looking for right now with those posts, because I mean, it's just like, I think for a lot of it, it really came out of left field. Us talking with Agave and, seeing what they're up to and how we can collaborate with them. But I think it fits in very nicely with what the topics were brought up in the original buy-in post. I think a lot of things that Nate brought about are put into action here in the proposals that I made.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe the way to go about this could be that I feel like there's somehow a consensus that we should do this, but maybe I'm not hearing, I never heard a negative opinion about this first buy-in. I feel like the conversation has been more about like how we're going to do it. So maybe like the signaling of either we're going to buy into the bonding curve or not could be through advice process, and then feeling the signal from there that I think it's positive towards it, we could propose a vote that has all of these other options as ranked choice voting. And then maybe we can go about the two top voted ones, or then this is what we would need to decide.
So I was going to say that, with this being such a big topic, that it does need to be voted on, even though we, like you said, I haven't seen anybody not disagree. I think most people have consensus, but with it being, money involved of substantial amounts, that it should go through a yes or no vote first, as an initial and official capacity vote. And if it passes that, then I think the next step would be to establish a max amount of funds that we're willing to buy. I think identifying that number is really important there, so we know exactly how much we're willing to buy into the initial buy of the curve, and then justify whatever amount we decide on, making sure that it's under that cap. And outside of that, the process of those two, outside of those two decisions, I think the process can take a life of its own through the advice process and so on. So, and whatever we explore, what Mitch has talked with Agave and all that good stuff. So, but I do think we should have an official yes or no vote, and then establish a max amount that we're willing to actually buy from the curve.
Yeah, and I will add.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Livy.
No, I was just going to say that even how much funds we should use should start to be debated already.
Exactly. A lot of it depends on that. And, these three things of just talking with Agave, whatever, like this is just the start. This is just to get the conversation going and probably maybe make the idea of buying in more appealing if we actually have some ideas of what we would do after that.
I mean, is there like a theoretical max to where, like, we start to have problems with the structure of the bonding curve if we buy too much? Like, I mean, like what is the number that gets problematic?
There's no number exactly, but because of the price slippage, so how far the price is going to move as you're buying more, it might become a bad deal, actually, because we'd just be like, we're paying double the price of the opening price at some point if we just like buy a huge amount all at once. So that's something to consider as well. We'd have to figure out what it was actually going to be in the reserve balance, which is going to depend on what we decide as our commons tribute. So there's still a lot of parameters that need to be decided in the commons so that we can get an actual figure.
And there's no chance of anybody like front running that transaction, right? It'll be the initial transaction of the bonding curve. Is that correct?
I mean, hopefully nobody's front running us. You know, we should be able to literally like program it into the script, you know, where we launch it and buy it almost simultaneously.
Yeah, it's a line of code. Sam told me that.
Okay, so just to organize here, we need, this sounds very confusing. So we need to start discussing how much funds we should use, but that won't happen until we start discussing the params. But we can't have the params decided before this proposal.
We can have we can say a percentage, you know, we won't know exactly how much funds we have, you know, in real numbers until we decide the commons tribute, you know, which is going to be the percent of funds from the hatch raised that will go to our common pool. So we could say like, okay, maybe we want to take 50% of the common pool and use it to buy into the curve. You know, that would be something very feasible. And there's nothing that says we need to use that whole 50% right away to buy it, you know, at that same moment. Maybe we decide that it's more, we're actually getting a better deal only using that 20%, but we know that whole 50% we've earmarked right away to be used for something other than funding TEC.
So we would have a window of like in between this parameter is voted on until its implementation of the actual commons upgrade to pass and implement this proposal?
Yes, like we can say, yes, we want to buy in and we can give ourselves a percent that we're willing to spend, but we won't know the actual number. Unless there's other funds coming from somewhere else than the hatch funds, we won't know the actual number until we decide the commons tribute.
Okay. So meanwhile, while this doesn't have, so this should be the very last step of this proposal, and everything else should be like on the aligned for when we have the time, we don't lose the time because it will be just a short window. And then, okay, so Nate thinks that we should do a yes or no vote. Does anyone thinks we shouldn't? So everybody agrees we should do a yes or no vote. But then the yes or no vote is just for the initial buy-in. But then that feels difficult because if this buy-in is for the reward system, some people might be in favor, but if it's for a VC, some people might not be in favor, or if it's for swapping with agave. So yeah, we just need a way to, I think we don't need to vote a yes or no because it feels like it would be inaccurate, the whatever response we got about it. I think we should vote a ranked choice voting to get a signal on which types of implementations would be more desirable. And maybe we can have a choice there that is, I don't want any of this. And then this would be like a blocker for it. And then decide some parameters that if I don't want any of this is has an X percentage of the votes, then it means that this proposal was blocked.
I like that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I like that a lot. My only purpose for proposing that was just because it's dealing with a lot of money, and so I do think that before the official vote should happen, we should have some type of signaling to reinforce the actions that we're taking in an official capacity, because it is a lot of money.
And that is the point of the advice process as a signal. And I feel like what's happening now is that we don't have as much trust in the advice process as we have on a vote. And I think this is very cultural, because a vote feels like it has so much power when like someone voted for this or for that, because it's a clear statement. But then when we see, let me see, how is this post doing, for example? So we had 8 replies, 34 likes. 34 likes is basically like 34 votes towards this. And then if we had in the comments something that is like, no, I don't think this should happen, then maybe we should look with more care. And I haven't read all the comments in depth yet, but I feel like none of them is doing that. So I feel like there's also this mental process of like letting advice process grow and trust in the community, and using this as a signal that is very relevant for how the voting is going to go. So like in this case, the advice process would save us one voting process, and would lead us to a more like specific route, like knowing what is actually that we need to decide. Any thoughts about this?
I would just say that it's I don't disagree with the logic behind that. I get worried about people who are reading a forum situation like that, and they see the overall consensus and are afraid to speak out against it, or it's not the environment for them to be the one person to dissent. I want to make sure that there's a vehicle for that dissension to occur, and sometimes voting provides that vehicle. But outside of that, that's my only concern.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And then the next one-time change of TC addresses. This one will have to be proposed to the DAO, right? Because it needs to happen on chain, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the next step is right now, people should be contacting Tam or Griff if they wanna do any change. And I do not remember the date, but it's stated on the forum, like one day before the proposal is going to. But it's not in here. That's not correct. The correct information is on the proposal on the snapshot, because yeah, everything was set it up there. Actually, like where we integrated the feedback on the proposal is inside. Yeah, it's there. Yeah, we did some changes. Like for example, Chui was concerned about people theft identity. So yeah, the idea is like now we had a new thing like Griff, Dan, and Tam. All of them are going to speak to everyone. So we have like 3 confirmations, and yeah, the idea is like anyone can contact them, and one day before, I think it was on 16 when we proposed it to the DAO, one day before, Griff or Tam or Dan are going to post all the addresses that are going to be changed, so anyone can check it, and then the next day we do the vote, actually.
Okay, great. So So this one is all solved. Can you update that version that is on Snapshot in the forum?
Yeah, I'll do it right
'Cause
after this call.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, because we should have the forum one as the most updated one, because that's what's going to be posted in the DAO, the forum link.
Okay.
Great, thank you. And then the community covenant, there is a lot of feedback there that I need to integrate still, but then this will also be submitted to the DAO, just because it's in the covenant that any change to the covenant should be proposed to the DAO. So just to like follow that future practice, this first one should be proposed there too. And then we only have a few minutes left, but Septimus and I started to talk about the TEC agreements, and even having very small agreements should be changed. How should we do that? What is the process? And I was thinking about it, and I think it's something related to what we were talking about advice process, that maybe if it's an agreement that it's very clear that a certain working group has the expertise on that a little advice process could be held in a call, and very like everyone has an opinion. So I thought if you all agree, we could try doing that just for that one small issue we had, Zaptimus, because I feel like that could be easily solved by Softgov. And then we can try to elaborate a little bit more on how other agreements should be changed, and then what types of agreements demand more attention or less, and we can incorporate that in the session of the agreements that it's already happening that Anna Marie started.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Have like different agreements with different levels of consensus, and yeah, and I think that Softgov is the working group that should have the autonomy to change the small ones at least. And yeah, I think that's a very good solution. Yeah.
And then what was the thing that you said today?
Oh, yeah.
For the double accounts? Yeah.
Actually, when we listed our agreements, like, I don't know, it was a long time ago, we were saying like we should not use multiple accounts. And yeah, Vitor, for the dashboard, he needs to create another account, and so he's not using his, right? And he will set up a bot, and I mean, yeah, it's a TDC work that he will do, but the thing is like somehow he's violating that agreement of not having multiple accounts, and yeah, the idea was to, this is so what he's doing is good, right? It's benefiting us. So maybe we should change the agreement and maybe put exceptions on the multiple accounts. But the bigger discussion was, yeah, how to approach those, and I think Levi got a great solution.
Yeah, and just to give the chance for people to, let me find, where was this? Here. So suggesting we change the agreements for one person holding one account unless a bot is needed for whatever reason. Does everybody think that this is enough context to just have a quick yes or no now? And we can pass around.
I would be more specific that it's for, making a bot that is for TC work. Like I could imagine someone doing a bot, I don't know, for scam people and using it around with a multiple account, and yeah, he could, I don't know, follow this agreement and still do harm.
Maybe this is a little confusing for everyone just in the end of the call now, but I'll elaborate better, and then maybe next call we can start with just a just a yes or no here to make this decision. Cool. Does anybody want to share something the last few minutes?
I just want to say I really enjoy these meetings all the time, and I'm glad I've started showing up to them more regularly.
Yay, thank you. Yeah, it's great to have some inputs from params too. I feel like there's a lot of overlaps that we can work with.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps get a lot of needed context on some of these issues. Making sure we're talking about the right things.
Thank you, Livy.
Thank you all.